biggest we agreed upon was that there needs to be a that there's this dialectical tension that exists between the new of the oral world and the old of the church world, the tradition that exists, that both parties ought to honor one another, respect one another, and learn how to create dialogue in that dialectical tension. And then secondly, the issue of contextualization, not only of the story from the scriptures, but also of the culture to which we go, and learning how to listen to the culture and observe the culture and know from the culture which of these stories are they ready to hear, which of these stories can speak into this culture most readily, and then how do we build into that contextualized atmosphere a healthy relationship between culture of the recipient culture and the culture of the Bible.
All right, good. Which other table? You ready to report here? Okay.
Yeah. We kind of honed in on the starting points, which came up in the panel discussion. How can you get there? Because we all have, most of us come from a Western-based theology and orientation. So where do you start from, and how can you get that going? The other aspect was, when we are involved in theological education, do we come as facilitators or learners or validators of what is going on? And so we need to analyze how we're coming to that dialectical or dialogical table.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
All right. So some of it has to do with role or identity.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my little identity is a big deal in all of this. What the faculty members consider themselves to be, what the learners consider themselves to be, and a whole bit. We have a report from back here.
Yeah. We also talked about like a starting point for oral cultures, where many oral cultures often start discipleship through rituals. So our question was, what role do rituals play in oral learning, such as Mary's example about the flooding that came. The flood victims probably didn't ask about the Trinity, or to hear stories about it, but probably needed some healing of through a ritual process, through some symbols, etc., which oral people hold on to. So our question was, what role do rituals play in the discipleship of oral learners? The second one, we talked about, does the need for accreditation place too much of a straitjacket on oral learners? In other words, the need for accreditation sometimes constricts the kind of creativity and the learning genre that can be introduced into a teaching curriculum. And is that too much of a straitjacket that we may have to go around it at some point and may have to say accreditation isn't that important after all at some point?
All right. I think I see some smiles and nods. You're not the only ones who thought of those questions. Your take this report. Lynette?
Okay. The question, what will it take for us to get beyond literate Western models and contextualize theological education amongst oral learners? It begins with me. We need to be careful not to create a dichotomy of us deciding what is best for them. Orality is a part of the rhythm of life. It's holistic. And me, as an academic, learning and memorizing a story, God speaks to me through that. And we need to look at it, how does this impact our seminaries here? How do we change our seminaries here, not just there?
Okay. All right.
We got a great group over here. Faculty and staff must be transformed first. It's a threat to established institutions, and that threat has to be reduced. How do we do that? If we can leave here with some ideas, I really appreciate that one. Second, early on, involve oral learners in the process. Otherwise, we as literate decision makers form the next phase of what they become. So it has to include them early on.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your feedback. Mark is recording that. Now, you want? Are you gathering them, or need to gather them
We're
here?
gathering all of your ideas, pass them on to me, we'll put them onto the post-it notes.
Okay, we're ready for the next panel, which includes Jackson Atkins, Miriam Adeney, and David Irving. David.